In effect, the whole Trump presidency is a break from the presidency.
I'm Joanna Coles. You're listening, watching, or jousting to the Daily Beast podcast, and I'm here with Donald Trump's brainworm. Yes, the obscenely best-selling author Michael Wolff, who is deep inside Donald Trump's brain and will be bringing us more explanation of that very strange grey matter. But today we're talking about one of my personal obsessions, and that's the women around Donald Trump, the women in the White House, who look very Stepford-wifey to me. They all look the same, and yet they have very distinct roles. So I'm fascinated by Natalie Harp, a.k.a. the human printer, because she literally drives around the golf course with a Wi-Fi printer, printing out good news for the president. And of course, Laura Loomer, her new best friend. So let's get into it. Michael, welcome back. Last time you were on the podcast, as many people commented on YouTube, you talked about this fascination that Donald Trump has with a sort of bygone era. And part of that bygone era, a sort of white America where white men were supreme, is the women who are around him and what they look like. And I wanted to get into it because with Melania in absentia and Ivanka disappeared, he's still nevertheless got a group of women around him who look like younger versions of them. They all look remarkably similar, and they all feel like contestants from the competition he used to own, Miss Universe.
Well, let me do a curious slight backstory here, because when I was writing my first book about Trump, Fire and Fury, I was in the White House for about 7 months. I had a kind of carte blanche, was watching everything, this show unfold literally before my eyes. Sometimes I would just sit on the couch in the West Wing waiting to see someone for the next appointment. And at one point, seeing this, trying to absorb all this, I texted my wife, and I said, "Do you think it's unusual that every woman that I see here has long hair worn down, skirts above the knee," and this was in the winter, and high boots?
It's the uniform.
I mean, literally every single one. And most of these were young women, but there was Kellyanne Conway looking the same, just significantly older. And yes, my wife confirmed that this would be highly unusual for every woman in office to be dressed like this.
And I would add that they're all surprisingly attractive. I mean, it's very unusual to walk into any political office and find the women, and perhaps I'm going to get a lot of hate for saying this, but they look like models. They look like beauty contestants.
Well,
some of them are very smart.
And certainly many have been models. One of in the first administration, the pivotal, the kind of head girl, was Hope Hicks, who actually had been a model and then had been in the PR business. And there's always this connection he makes between being good looking and being in the PR business, because then you're a face, you're front looking. And
she had been working for Ivanka in Ivanka's fashion business, as a PR.
Yes. And then was taken into politics, for she had no other qualifications except that she looked the part. She didn't know anything about politics. She had never worked in politics, had never worked in government.
I remember talking to Hope Hicks because when she came out of the White House, and we can go into why, but she did the rounds looking for a job, and she came in to talk to us. And at the time, I think I was chief content officer of Hearst magazines, and I was struck by how incredibly attractive she was. She was playing with her hair the whole time, but she also seemed very nice, and she described her life attending to Donald Trump. She had to be in the White House at 5 a.m. every morning. And she said she woke up at 3 a.m. every day. She went to bed at 8 p.m. It sounded like a very lonely life, but because she'd been an athlete, I think she was a hockey player, actually. She said she was used to getting up early to get on the ice and that she would be in the office by 5 a.m., but she got up every day at 3 a.m. It seemed like a very monastic, weirdly monastic life.
Well, I think most people around, I mean, Donald, it's hard to work for Donald Trump. I mean, he is very demanding of people's time. And that's really is. I own your time. You have to be here and you have to be at my beck and call. That's essentially the job of all of the women and to some extent the men, but specifically all of the women anticipate his needs. So they become this, it's hard. It's not just a support system. It's a kind of comfort blanket. I mean, there's a view certainly within many of the people in the White House who have spent many years now speculating on this, that he is, and this is the term they use, post-sexual.
Right.
But
so he's gone from the days when he would call up the New York Post and say, Marla Maple says, I'm the best sex she's ever had.
Yes, exactly.
Right. He's now post-sex.
Right. And, because the people around him have wondered about this and they've worried about this. And what's he doing and with whom? And then they kind of have come to this understanding that he's not really doing anything. But one of the things he is doing is populating his world with women who he, I suppose, in another life or at another stage of life might have been involved with. I mean, they look like Melania, in fact. And so they're a kind of sexual surrogacy in its own peculiar fashion.
Well, and again, it's performance. So it looks like he's an older man who can attract these much younger, very good looking, very well put together women, which signals something to his base, his audience.
Yeah. Two stories. I mean, during his criminal trial in New York,
the Stormy Daniels
trial. The first thing, there were several women from the first administration who testified. Hope Hicks, a woman by the name of Madeleine Westerhout, who had been his, I guess, really sort of personal assistant, kind of secretary-ish, until one night she got drunk and started to gossip about the Trump family, and then was immediately fired. So those two women testified, and then the other women were sitting in the courtroom next to him. Natalie Harp, Margo Martin, Alina Habba, and very, very present and very unusual to see all of these women all dressed the same. And after the trial, I spoke to one of the members of the jury, and the jury that convicted him, by the way, on all counts. And so I was sort of going over what this juror saw, felt, what the reaction of what he could tell me about the entire jury. And among the things that he singled out, he said we were all creeped out by the women around him.
They were creeped out by them. Meaning what?
Meaning, the first thing, this was a trial essentially about a sexual issue, offense, circumstance. And here were all of these women who obviously suggested some kind of near fetishistic interest. So they felt that, he felt that this became one of the influences on this jury. Obviously, it supported the entire idea that this was,
Well, yet another of Donald Trump's sort of expressions out there. All right, so the first one is the jury were creeped out by the fact that Trump was surrounded by women, all of whom looked the same.
Yes, and then there's when he was during the legal mess that was unfolding during the campaign, and he put together a legal team. I mean, a really third-rate legal team, and he would admit this. I knew at least to two people I know that he told this story. He said, "Yeah, I may not have the greatest lawyers in the world," but then he would take out his phone and show a picture of several of the women on the team, and he said, "But I have the hottest lawyers."
Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness! All right, so back to Natalie Harp, who's also pretty hot.
Yeah, no, I mean, Natalie, who is a key function in this White House. She is one of, in matter of fact, she may be the most direct conduit to Donald Trump. If you have Natalie Harp's number, you can speak to the president virtually at any time.
We should find Natalie Harp's number. I'm sure it's in your phone, and we should blast it out so everybody can call Natalie Harp.
Absolutely.
Michael, where did she come from?
She had a minor on-air role at the fourth level conservative network, One Media. Yeah, One. And she was ill and with a disease. The story seems to change from who you hear it from. There are many versions of what she was ill with, but during the first administration, there was an initiative, a presidential order, I don't remember, but anyway, clearing the way for the use in some instances of experimental drugs, enabling her to get some particular drug that cured her. And then so she wrote to Donald Trump saying he had saved her life.
Which would be very appealing to anybody, but particularly Donald Trump.
Yes. And then she got a speaking berth at the 2020 Republican convention. That was a virtual convention, as you might remember, during COVID.
I blanked it out, actually. I'd totally forgotten that, but of course.
And then in early 2022, she came on to the campaign as the step and fetch it girl, the sort intern,
of the body or the body girl.
Yeah, get me a cup of coffee.
Right.
The get me a cup of coffee girl. But one of her jobs then was also to run the printer. So Trump famously does not use email, which has protected him from numerous legal situations. And he doesn't really use a computer, and even his use of the phone is pretty limited. So he likes things printed out. Now that's also ironic because he doesn't read anything, but he gets things printed out and he
holds.
Yes. And so she had the portable printer, and she would follow him on the golf course. She would have her own golf cart running the printer, and from hole to hole, she would then be printing out emails, and then increasingly stories that she thought he should see. And these were usually feel-good stories. Oh, this weirdo website. There's some, there was a lot of fan stuff. People would draw pictures of Trump, which he liked to see those. She became the keeper of that, and from that point, she became the keeper of almost everything. Everything he saw. You didn't get information to Donald Trump unless it was funneled through Natalie Harp's printer.
And where does she sit? Does she have an office in the White House?
She sits right outside of his office, so right outside the Oval Office.
So she's the literal and figurative gatekeeper.
Yeah.
And she earned the role herself by being the coffee girl.
By being the coffee girl and by being able to make a comfort blanket, make him feel good. And then within the campaign, and she was there was enormous animosity with the other campaign staffers because she had such control of him. And then they would say she feeds him his uppers and downers. So really controlling the mood, and the mood was controlled through media. I'm giving you,
I'm giving you good media, good feedback.
This thing. Now I'm giving you this thing that has been horrible thing that has been said about you. Michael Wolff said about you.
Or the Daily Beast said about you.
Yes.
And so traditionally a role that might have been played by a wife. I mean, not necessarily filtering all the information, but the idea of soothing him.
Yeah, no. I mean, I think this is, remember, and as we've discussed before, Melania is absent. The time she spends with the president, I think it's, reduced to the absolute minimum necessary to sustain the illusion of a marriage.
And does Melania appreciate the work of someone like Natalie Harp? Is she just grateful that Natalie has taken on this, what I imagine, unfillable role?
I think it's probably both things. I think she probably sees a completely inhospitable environment for her at this time, because it's an environment filled by other surrogates of the wife role. There is no place for her. Now, I guess she could come in and sweep everyone aside. But I think that marriage is long past that. She probably then said, okay, there's no room for me here. And I'm grateful for there not to be any demand that I be there.
Okay, so that's Natalie Harp. What about Alina Habba, his lawyer, who was his lawyer during the Stormy Daniels trial and also looks like one of the Trump women?
Yeah, and she would be one of the people in the photograph he holds up. My lawyers are hot. And she is now she's the federal prosecutor in New Jersey. Now, I cannot tell you how among the many lawyers in the Trump circle who have assumed high position and enormous power, who are of questionable qualifications, she is the least qualified. And there was she met him at her husband owns parking garages in New Jersey.
Right.
Parking garages, New Jersey.
Okay. Right.
And they're members of the golf club, Bedminster Golf Club. And so the story went that she was by the pool in a bikini, and that's how she met Trump.
So like one of his beauty contestants from Miss Universe.
Yes. So I had this information. I called her up. And she said, that is absolutely untrue. I will sue you if you say that. But she said, I am a member of the Bedminster Club. I love the Bedminster Club. I do have a bikini. I love the pool. So I was like, okay.
Confusing. Very legalistic answer.
Yes. And then she took on a series of legal tasks, mostly that other lawyers did not want to take on, like, suing his niece. A whole lot of things that respectable lawyers would not do. Lawyers are all basically, they have their clients, but then they have their reputations. She was willing to do these things, a whole series of motions and cases that were then thrown out. But she became more and more central, and he would push her forward. He also liked her to be out front. So whenever there was a court thing, and remember, Trump used these court appearances to enormous public advantage.
And they became part of his campaign.
Absolutely. And she was out there. She looks the role.
Well, she looks like she's someone from Law and Order, which is what his base is probably watching.
Yeah, no, that's a big thing with Trump. A lawyer should be like a lawyer on television.
Right. I mean, I remember you saying that he sort of yelled at them, do you not know what Perry Mason would have done? Yeah, do you know who Perry Mason is?
Right. But she was a terrible lawyer. And then he would yell at her, I mean, in vicious, horrifying ways. I mean, you just cringe.
During this Carroll trial, he would.
E. Jean Carroll.
Right.
And obviously that was a catastrophe. And
for Trump, it was a catastrophe for Trump.
Yes. And there was a moment when they were going to, they were trying to introduce certain evidence, and she failed at that. And then he, quite in public, reamed her out in front of the court, but then made her go out anyway and be the smiley face in front of the camera. So what she gets from that? Oh, and then she had actually wanted to be the press secretary, the spokesman, the Caroline Levitt job. She didn't get that. Trump, too old.
Right, too old, of course.
She's somewhat. I mean, she's not an old in any respect, but too old for that job. But then she got this job running the as the federal prosecutor in New Jersey. I mean, extraordinary.
So, Alina Habba, Natalie Harp, the human printer. Who's Margo Martin? I'm struck whenever I see her by how similar she looks to Melania, except she's 20 years younger.
Right. The Daily Mail is always confusing that, famously.
Right. Well, she does look just like her. She's got beautiful long chestnut hair. She's incredibly attractive.
And within the White House, they were always grateful for that confusion, because it made it seem like Melania was on the scene.
There. Yeah. Right, that's funny. So, who is Margo?
Just an assistant, a tender. Again, a part of this comfort blanket staff. What official function does she have? What does she actually do? It comes under the broad heading of comms. Again,
which in a sense is all his presidency is.
Yeah, it's again,
endless comms,
and also the link that he always makes between pretty girls and PR.
And then we have,
which is not incidental to him. I mean, PR is. He acknowledged. He is open in his understanding and his. I'm transparent about how important that is to him. I mean, during the campaign and during the trials, it was always my legal strategy is my PR strategy. My PR strategy is my legal strategy.
Taught to him by Roy Cohn.
Yeah.
It's so interesting listening to the backgrounds of these women around Trump, because you think of all these students who've come out, doggedly studying political science at Georgetown, and they've spent, several years interning for some godforsaken senator in some state, hoping that they will squeeze into politics somehow. And in fact, it turns out that if you just carry a printer around on a golf cart, that's actually the way to get hired these days.
And I think the recommendation, part of the recommendation here is that nothing about this. Maybe you can actually create some deeper rationale. I mean, we don't want politics. We're against politics. We're anti-politics. We're anti-politicians. We're anti-Washington. All of that, we're
anti-elite universities,
which is true. So we want people to work for us who know nothing about politics, who have no interest in politics, and who have all gone to some godforsaken college that you've never heard of.
Well, one of those people, and that leads me perfectly to Laura Loomer, who is the ultimate outsider, determined to become an insider, constantly running around telling people what influence she has with the president. Does she have influence? And what does he make of her?
Okay, well, operationally, everybody is trying to keep Laura Loomer out, except for Natalie Harp. and as I said before, Natalie is the most direct conduit. She and Laura Loomer have bonded in some way of friendship or just convenience, and that's how Laura Loomer comes in. She calls Natalie, she's in, and the president likes her.
Why does he like her? Where does she come from?
She's 30 years old. She looks the part. She's on television often. If you're Donald Trump, well, that's the trifecta.
Right.
I mean, what's not to like from Donald Trump's point of view?
But the others seem less ideological. Like, we don't get a sense that Margo Martin or Natalie Harp are in it for anything other than proximity to the presidency. Whereas Laura does seem to have an ideological drive.
Yeah. No, obviously, or some drive.
Well, some drive, right? And she's very MAGA, whereas you wouldn't.
But she's very. But he doesn't necessarily see it that way either. He sees it. She's very television. She's good television. So that's amusing to him. I mean, he's not hiring her he's not bringing her into the White House. She's not part of his comfort staff. Although there were constant rumors through the campaign. But I think that those were started by various people. There was an agenda behind those rumors. As far as I know,
that she was more than a comfort blanket.
Yes, or a very comfortable blanket. But I think that she just comes in and she amuses him. And she comes in through Natalie.
Well, and to be fair, if you're in that job, there must be moments when you need amusing.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure that is conventionally true.
I mean, you think of kings having court jesters,
right? But that suggests that Trump is spending time, in a serious pursuit of his duties.
Right. Well, in fact, everybody
then has to take a break from, and in effect, the whole Trump presidency is a break from the presidency.
And then, of course, there's the mother of them all, Susie Wiles, who looks completely different, who is a grandmother and gives off very grandmotherly vibes.
An anomaly in this, and an important anomaly. That she manages to step in there. And I think the fact that she looks the way she does, in 2016, she was running Florida. He didn't know her. She had been brought in to run the state of.
And she was working with DeSantis, wasn't she? Ron DeSantis.
She had not gone to work for DeSantis yet. She was a Florida political operative brought in to run the state of Florida for Donald Trump.
Oh, okay.
And then he went to Florida and. Met her for the first time and, whatever conversation they had. And then he left and he said, looks like a refrigerator. Get rid of her.
That's why he said,
yes.
She looked like a refrigerator. Get rid of her.
Yes.
Oddly, she does wear a silver dress. It's like a light blue silver.
I don't know. There is something in his head. He hits these.
Well, he's looking at it from the point of view of a casting director, right? This is all casting.
Right, but even the words, there is something riveting about this. Somehow he hits it. He gets it.
Or Susie Wiles. Because she's obviously an extremely effective operator.
And yes, and anyway, she was not fired, and they went on to flip the state of Florida.
So the refrigerator won.
Yes, and then she came. She was in the same role for 2020, and then after he lost and returned to Mar-a-Lago, Jared, who did not want to be the president's keeper and administrative assistant, and he saw the role there and said, God, get me out of here. He brought Susie Wiles in to do that. And she proceeded to do it in a way that he doesn't notice, which is really what he wants in that job.
And what relationship do the women have to each other in the White House? Because you say that all his advisors hate each other, his cabinet ministers hate each other. It's a fight for his attention. Do the women get on? Is it a supportive environment, or are
they hate each other? I mean, it's a competition. He is always pitting them against one another, always choosing one over the other, and you have to fight for his. I mean, that's what you're doing. You're fighting for his attention, and the one who gives him what he most wants is the one who is closest to him, and the one who is closest to him is. Everyone else understands that they are not the closest to him.
So, I mean, it's so interesting hearing all this, and I want to do another episode purely on the family, actually, and his kids in particular. But it's very noticeable that Jared and Ivanka are not around second time round. I mean, they've made it clear they don't want it. Ivanka's publicly said politics is not for her. It's too poisonous. She doesn't like it. What did they know that everybody else does?
Well, I think that's the question. And that's sort of what if I were one of those people who now in the White House, I would say, wait a minute, I'm here and the guy who knows everything is not here. So what am I missing? And I think it's true. I think they know everything. They went through that first White House. They saw him at his most precarious in the way that he could have gone down and could have taken them down with him. Almost did on any number of occasions. And they went into this saying, and went into this third campaign saying, no, I mean, you don't want to tempt fate like that.
And of course, remembering now Ivanka testifying during the January the 6th testimonies.
Right. I mean, they're under, absolutely no illusion about what happened here, certainly about the election denial, about January 6th, but about so much else also. And I think that they have literally run in the opposite direction. And of course, let's not forget the several $1 billion that they've accrued in the process.
All right. So we need to come back and do another podcast purely on the family. Do you promise to do that? Every time I talk to you, I have just so many more questions.
Let's do it.
So my takeaway from Michael this week is just that fight for Trump's attention and how stressful that must be when you are in the White House or when you're working with him, just clamoring for his attention, that sun beaming on you because it's the only thing that counts or gives you validation. And of course, the fact that it's a zero-sum game. If someone else has his attention, you don't. So it's government by gimmick and government by attention. If you have been, thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to The Daily Beast. Just go to thedailybeast.com. Leave a comment on YouTube if you can for us, because we read them. They're incredibly helpful and they inform what we think about doing the following week. And don't forget, be Beast. And this podcast was produced by Devon Rogerino, Anna von Ursen, and it was edited by Jesse Millward.